Welcome back to another live stream. So today I'm planning to read Leviticus chapter 13 to 16 and First Corinthians chapter 11 and 12. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 13. Hopefully the stream doesn't get cut off. This is my third time doing the stream. Hopefully this time my internet doesn't get any messed up. Actually, all the settings are different right now. So YouTube has changed some of the new settings. They're given some new settings. Hopefully everything stays good so that I can able to complete my task right now. Leviticus chapter 13. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when anyone has a swelling or a rash or a shiny spot on their skin that may be defiling skin disease, they must be brought to Aaron the priest or to one of his sons who is a priest. The priest is to examine the sore on the skin, and if the hair in the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling skin disease. When the priest examines that person, he should pronounce them a ceremonial unclean. If a shiny spot on the skin is white but does not appear to be more than a skin deep, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine them, and if he sees that the sore is unchanged and has not separated in the skin, he is to isolate them for another 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine them again, and if the sore had faded and had not spread in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a rash. They must wash their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the rash does spread in their skins after they have shown themselves to the priest to be pronounced clean, they must appear before the priest again. The priest should examine that person, and if the rash had spread in the skin, he should pronounce them unclean if it is a defiling skin disease. When anyone has a defiling skin disease, they must be brought to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if there is a white swelling in the skin that has turned their hair white, and if there is a raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce them unclean. He is not to isolate them because they are already unclean. If the disease breaks out all over the skin, and so far as the priest can see, it covers all the skin of the affected person from the head to foot, the priest is to examine them, and if the disease has covered their whole body, he shall pronounce them clean. Since it has all turned white, they are all clean. But wherever raw flesh appears on them, they will be unclean. When the priest sees the raw flesh, they shall pronounce them unclean. The raw flesh is unclean. They are defiling disease. If the raw flesh changes and turns white, they must go to the priest. The priest is to examine them, and if the sore has turned white, the priest shall pronounce the affected person clean. Then they will be clean. When someone has a boil on their skin and it heals, and in the place where the boil was a white swelling or a reddish white spot appears, they must present themselves to the priest. The priest is to examine it, and if it appears to be more than a skin deep, and the hair in it has turned white, the priest shall pronounce that person unclean. It is a defiling skin disease that had broken out where the boils was. But if when the priest examines it, there is no white hair in it, and it is not more than a skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. If it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling disease. But if the spot is unchanged and has not spread, it is only a scare for the boil, and the skin shall pronounce them clean. When someone has a burn on their skin, and a reddish white or a white spot appears in a raw flesh of a burn, the priest is to examine the spot, and if the hair in it has turned white, and it appears to be more than skin deep, it is a defiling disease that has broken out in the burn. The priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. But if the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and if it is not more than a skin deep and has faded, then the priest is to isolate them for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine that person, and if it is spreading in the skin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease. If, however, the spot is unchanged and has not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is a swelling from the burn, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. It is only a scab from the burn. If a man or a woman has a sore on their head or chin, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it happens to be more than skin deep, and the hair it is in yellow and thin, the priest shall pronounce them unclean. It is a defiling skin disease on the head or chin. But if, when the priest examines the sore, if it does not seem to be more than a skin deep and there is no black hair in it, then the priest is to isolate the affected person for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread and there is no yellow hair in it, and it does not appear to be more than skin deep, then the man or a woman must shave themselves except from the affected areas, and the priest is to keep them isolated another 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest is to examine the sore, and if it has not spread in the skin and appears to be no more than a skin deep, the priest shall pronounce them clean. They must wave their clothes, and they will be clean. But if the sore does not spread in the skin after they pronounce clean, the priest is to examine them, and if he finds the sore has a spread in the skin, he does not need to look for yellow hair, they are unclean. If, however, the sore is unchanged so far as the priest can see, and if the black hair has grown in it, the affected person is healed. They are clean, and the priest shall pronounce them clean. When a man or a woman has white spots on the skin, the priest is to examine them, and if the spots are dull white, it is harmlessly rash that has broken out on the skin. They are clean. A man has lost his hair and his bald is clean, and if he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and a bald forehead, he is clean. But if he has a reddish white sore on his bald head or forehead, it is a defiling disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swollen sore on his head or forehead is reddish white, like a defiling skin disease, the man is diseased and is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him unclean because of the sore of his head. Anyone with such defiling disease must be wear torn clothes, let their hair be unkempt, cover the lower part of the face, and cry out, unclean, unclean. As long as they have disease, they remain unclean. They must live alone. They must live outside the camp. As for any fabric that is spoiled with defiling mold, any woolen or linen clothing, any woven or kinet material or linen or woolen, any leather or anything made of leather, if the affected areas in the fabric, the leather, the woven or the kinet material or any leather articles in greenish or reddish, it is defilingly mold and must be shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the affected area and isolate the article for 7 days. On the seventh day, he is to examine it, and if the mold has spread in the fabric, the oven, or the kinet material, or the leather, whatever it uses, it is a persistent defiling mold. The article is unclean. He must burn the fabric, the oven, or kinet material of the wool or linen, or any leather article that has been spoiled because of the defining mold is persistent. The article must be burned. But if, when the priest examines it, the mold and has not spread in the fabric, the oven, or the kinet material, or the leather article, he shall order that the spoiled article be washed. Then he is to isolate it for another 7 days. After the article has been washed, the priest is to examine it, and if the mold has not changed its appearance, even though it has not spread, it is unclean. Burn it no matter which side of the fabric has been spoiled. If when the priest examines it, the mold has faded away, that the articles has been washed, he is to tear spoiled part of the fabric, the leather or the woven or the kinet material. But if it reappears in the fabric, in the oven, or a kinet material, or the leather in the article, it is spreading mold. Whatever he has mold must be burned. Any fabric, oven, or night materials, or any leather article that has been washed and is rid of mold must be washed again. Then it will be clean. These are the regulations concerning defining molds in woolen or linen clothing or woven or kinet material or any leather articles for pronouncing them clean or unclean. So, interesting chapter. A lot of things said about the skin disease, what to wear, all these things. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, "These are the regulations for any deceased person at the time of the ceremonial cleaning. When they are brought to the priest is to go outside the camp and examine them. If they have been healed of the defiling skin disease, the priest shall order that the two live clean birds and the sound cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop be brought for the person to be cleansed. Then the priest shall order that the one of the birds be killed over fresh water in the clay pot. He is then to take the live bird and dip it, together with the cedar wood, the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, in the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. 7 times he shall sprinkle the one to the cleanse of the defiling disease, and then pronounce them clean. After that he is to release the living bird in the open field. The person to be cleansed must wash their clothes, shave off their hair, and bath with water. Then they will be ceremonially clean. After this they may come into the camp, but they must stay outside the tent for 7 days. On the seventh day they must shave off all the hair. They must shave their head, their beard, their eyebrows, and the rest of their hair. They must wash their clothes and bath themselves with water, and they will be clean. On the eighth day they must bring 2 male lambs and 1 lamb a year old, each without defect, along with 3/10 of an ephah of the finest flour mixed with olive oil from a grain offering, and 1 log of oil. The priest who pronounced them clean shall present both the one to the cleanse and their offerings before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. Then the priest is to take one of the male lambs and offer it as a guilt offering, along with the log of oil. He shall wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He is to slaughter the lamb in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and the burnt offering are slaughtered. Like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, the thumb of their right hand, onto the big toe of their right foot. The priest then takes some of the log of the oil, pour it on the palm of the own left hand, dip his right forefinger into the oil in his palm with his finger, sprinkle up some of it before the Lord 7 times. The priest is to put some of the oil remaining in the palm of the lobe of his right ear of the one to be cleansed on the thumb of the right hand and on the big toe of the right foot on the top of the blood of the guilt offering. The rest of the oil in his palm the priest shall put on the head of the one to be cleansed and make atonement for them before the Lord. Then the priest is to sacrifice the sin offering and make atonement for the one to be cleansed from the uncleanness. After that the priest shall slaughter the burnt offering and offer it on the altar together with the grain offering and make atonement for them, and they will be clean. If however they are poor and cannot afford, these they must take on 1 lamb as a guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for them, together with the 10th of the ephah on the finest flour with olive oil for a grain offering, a log of oil, and 2 doves of 2 young pigeons, such they can afford, one for a sin offering and another for a burnt offering. On the 8th day they must bring them for cleaning to the priest at the entrance of the tent of the meeting before the Lord. The priest is to take the lamb for the guilt offering together with the log of oil, wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. He shall slaughter the lamb for the guilt offering and take some of its blood and put it on the lobe of the right ear of the lobe to be cleansed, on the thumb, on the right hand, on the big toe of the right foot. The priest is to pour some of the oil in the palm of his own left, and with his right forefinger sprinkle some of the oil from his palm 7 times before the Lord. Some of the oil in the palm he is to put on the same place he put the blood of the guilt offering, on the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed, and on the thumb of their right hand, on the big toe of their right foot. The rest of the oil in the palm the priest put on the head of one to be cleansed, to make the atonement for them before the Lord. Then he shall sacrifice the doves or young pigeons, such as a person can afford, one as a sin offering and other as a burnt offering, together with the grain offering. In this way the priest will make atonement before the Lord on behalf of the one to be cleansed. These are the regulations for anyone who has defiling skin disease and who cannot afford the regular offering for their cleansing. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when you enter the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, I put a spreading mold in the house in the land. The owner of the house must go and tell the priest, I have seen something that looks like defiling mold in my house. The priest is to order the house to be emptied before he goes in to examine the mold, so that nothing in the house will be pronounced unclean. After this, the priest is to go in and inspect the house. He used to examine the mold on the walls, and if it is greenish or reddish depression that appears to be deeper than the surface of the wall, the priest shall go out on the doorway of the house and close it up for 7 days. On the seventh day, the priest shall return to inspect the house if the mold has spread on the walls. He used to order the containment stones to be thrown out and thrown into the unclean places outside the town. He must have all inside walls of the house scrapped and the material that is scrapped off dumped into unclean places outside the town. Then they are to take other stones to replace these and take new clay and plaster the house. If the defiling mold reappears in the house after the stones had been thrown out and the house scrapped and they plastered, the priest is to go and examine it, and if the mold has spread in the house, it is persistently defiling mold, the house is unclean, it must be torn down, its stones, timbers, and all the plasters, and takes out of the town to be unclean. Anyone who goes into the house while it is closed up will be unclean till evening. Anyone who sleeps or eats in the house must wash their clothes. But if the priest comes to examine it and the mold has not spread after the house has been plastered, he shall pronounce the house clean, because the defiling mold is gone. To purify the house, he used to take 2 birds and some cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and a hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds over fresh water in the clay post. Then he used to take a cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and a live bird, dip into the blood of the dead bird and the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. He shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the scarlet yarn. Then he used to release the live bird in the open field outside the town. In this way he will make atonement for the house, and it will be clean. These are the regulations for any defiling skin disease, for sore, for defiling molds in fabric or in a house, and for the swelling, a rash, or a shining spot, to determine when something is clean or unclean. These are the regulations for defiling skin disease and defiling molds. The big chapter, 50 plus verses. The 2 chapters of Leviticus is completed so far. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 15. Okay. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, speak to the Israel and say to them, when any man has an unusual bodily discharge, such a discharge is unclean. Whether it continues flowing from his body or it's blocked, it will make him unclean. This is how his discharge will bring about uncleanness. Any bed the man with the discharge lies on will be unclean, and anything he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed must wash their clothes and bath with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whoever sits on anything that the man with the discharge sat on must wash their clothes and bath with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whoever touches the man who has a discharge must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. If a man with a discharge splits on anyone who is clean, they must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Everything the man sits on when riding will be unclean, and whoever touches any of these things that were under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever picks up those things must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone the man with discharge touches without rinsing his hands with water must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. The clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden article is to be rinsed with water. When a man is cleansed from his discharge, he is to count off 7 days for his ceremonial cleaning. He must wash his clothes and bathe himself with fresh water, and he will be clean. On the 8th day he must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord to the entrance to the tent of the meeting and give them to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, the one for sin offering and the other for burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement before the Lord for the man because of his discharge. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body with water, and he will be unclean till evening. Any clothing or leather that has semen on it must be washed with water, and it will be unclean till evening. When a man has sexual relationship with a woman and there is an emission of semen, Both of them must bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When a woman has a regular flow of blood, the impurity of monthly period will last 7 days, and anyone who touches her will be unclean till evening. Anything she lies on during a period will be unclean, and anything she sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches her bird will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Anyone who touches anything she sits on will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. Whether it's bed or anything she was sitting on, when anyone touches it, they will be unclean till evening. If a man has a sexual relationship with her and her monthly flow touches him, he will be unclean for 7 days, and any bed he lies on will be unclean. When a woman has a discharge of blood of many days at a time other than a monthly period, or has a discharge that continues beyond her period, she will be unclean as long as she has been discharged, just as in the days of her period. Any bed she lies on while her discharge continues will be unclean, as is her bed during a monthly period, and anything she sits on will be unclean as during a period. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. They must wash their clothes and bathe with water, and they will be unclean till evening. When they cleanse from the discharge, she must count off 7 days, and after that she will have ceremonial clean. On the 8th day she must take 2 doves or 2 young pigeons and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of the meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one for a sin offering and the other for the burnt offering. In this way he will make atonement for her before the Lord for the uncleanness of her discharge. You must keep the Israelites separate from the things that make them unclean, so they will not die in their uncleanness for defiling my dwelling place, which among them. These are the regulations for a man with discharge, for anyone who made unclean by the emission of semen, for a man in a monthly period, for a man or a woman with discharge, or for a man who has a sexual relationship with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. So interesting chapter, Leviticus chapter 15. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 16. Final chapter for day 27 in the Old Testament. Leviticus chapter 16. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of 2 sons of Aaron, who died when they approached the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come whenever he chooses in the most holy place, behind the curtain in front of the atonement cover on the ark, or else he will die, for I will appear in the cloud over the atonement cover." This is how Aaron is to enter the most holy place. He must first bring a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to put on the sacred linen tunic with the linen undergarments next to his body. He is to tie the linen sash around him and put on a linen turban. These are the sacred garments, so he must bathe himself with water before he puts them on. From the Israelite community, he is to take 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron is to offer the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household. Then he used to take 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent. He is to cast lots for 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. Aaron shall bring the goat whose lot falls to the Lord and sacrifice it as a sin offering. But the goat chosen by the Lord on the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to be used for making atonement by sending it into the wilderness as a scapegoat. Aaron shall bring the bull for his own sin offering to make atonement for himself and his household, and he is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. He is to take a censer full of burning coals for the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense, and take them behind the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the smoke of the incense will conceal with atonement cover above the tablets of the covenant law so that he will not die. He used to take some of the bull's blood with his finger, sprinkle it on the front of the atonement cover. Then he shall sprinkle some of it with finger 7 times before the atonement cover. He shall then slaughter the goat for the sin offering for the people and take its blood and behind the curtain and do it as he did with the bull's blood. He shall sprinkle it on the atonement cover and in front of it. In this way he will make an atonement for the most holy place because of the uncleanness and revelation of the Israelites, whatever their sins have been. He is to do the same for the tent of the meeting, which is among them in the midst of the uncleanness. No one is to be in the tent of the meeting from the time Aaron goes into making atonement in the most holy place until he comes out, having made atonement for himself, his household, and his whole community of Israel. Then he shall come out of the altar that is before the Lord and make atonement for him. He shall take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood and put it on the horns of the altar. He shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times to cleanse it and to consecrate it from the uncleanness of Israelites. When Aaron has finished making atonement for the most holy place, the tent of the meeting and the altar, he shall bring forward the live goat. He is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the wickedness and rebellion of the Israelites, all their sins, and put them on the goat's head. He shall send the goat away into the wilderness in care of someone appointed for the task. The goat will carry itself all their sins to a remote place, and the man shall release it in the wilderness. Then Aaron is to go into the tent of the meeting and take off a linen garment he put on before he entered the most holy place. He is to leave them there. He shall bathe himself with water in the sanctuary area and put on the regular garments. Then he shall come out and sacrifice the burnt offering for himself and a burnt offering for the people to make atonement for himself and for the people. He shall burn the fat of sin offering on the altar. The man who releases the goat as a scapegoat must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may come into the camp. The bull and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make atonement, must be taken out of the camp. Their hides, their flesh, and the intestines are to be burnt up. The man who burns them must wash their clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may come into the camp. This is to be the lasting ordinance for you. On the 10th day of the seventh month, you must deny yourself and not do any work, whether native born or a foreign residing among you, because on this day the atonement will be made for you to cleanse you. Then before the Lord you will be clean for all your sins. It is the day of Sabbath rest, and you must deny yourself. It is the last ordinance. The priest who is anointed and ordained to succeed his father as high priest is to make atonement. He is to put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement for the most holy place, for the tent of the meeting and the altar, for the priest and all the members of the community. This is to be lasting ordinance for you. Atonement is to be made once a year for all the sins of Israel, and it was done as the Lord commanded Moses. So interesting chapter. We just saw the two goats. One goat is for sin offering, and another goat is a scapegoat, where it is thrown into the wilderness. So interesting chapter. Let's go to the New Testament, First Corinthians. Follow my example. I follow the example of Christ. I praise you for remembering me in everything and for holding to the traditions just as I passed them on to you. But I want you to realize that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of every woman is man, and the head of the Christ is God. Every man who prays or prophesies with his head covering dishonors his head, but every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head. It is the same as having her head shaved. For if a woman does not cover her head, she might as well as have her hair cut off. Sorry. But if it is a disgrace for a woman to have her hair cut off or her head shaved, then she should cover her head. And man ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God, but woman is the glory of man. For man did not come from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for woman, but woman for man. It is for this reason that a woman ought to have authority over her own head because of the angels. Nevertheless, in the Lord, woman is not independent of man, nor is man independent of woman. For as a woman came from man, so also man is born of woman. But everything comes from God. Judge for yourself. It is proper for a woman to pray to God with her head uncovered. Does not the very nature of things teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace for to him, but that if a woman has a long hair, it is a glory? For long hair is given to her as a covering. If anyone wants to be contagious about this, we have no other practice, nor do the churches of God. In the following directives, I have no praise for your meetings do more harm than good. In the first place, I heard that when you come together as a church, there are divisions among you, and to some extent, I believe it. No doubt there have been. மேல போவோம் மேல போவோம் மேல எடுத்துச்சு அது இப்ப இல்ல. No doubt there have to be difference among to show which of you have God's approval. So then when you come together, it is not the Lord's supper you eat. For when you are eating, some of you go ahead with your own private suppers. As a result, one person remains hungry and another gets drunk. Do you have homes to eat and drink in it? Or do you have despised the church of God by humiliating those who have nothing? What shall I say to you? Shall I praise you? Certainly not in this manner. For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you, and do this in remembrance of me." The same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is a new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until it comes." So then whoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord is an unworthy man and will be guilty of sin against the body and blood of the Lord. Everyone ought to examine themselves before they eat of the bread and drink from the cup. For those who eat and drink without discerning the body of Christ eat and drink judgment on themselves. That is why many among you were weak and sick, and a number of you have fallen asleep. But if we were more discerning with regard to ourselves, we would not come under such judgment. Nevertheless, we are judged in this way by the Lord. We are being disciplined, so that we will not be finally condemned with the Lord. So then, my brothers and sisters, when you gather to eat, you shall all eat together. Anyone who is hungry should eat something at home, so that when you meet together, it may not result in judgment. And when I come, I will give further directions. Chapter 12. Now, about the gifts of the spirits, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, somehow or other, you were influenced and led astray to mute idols. Therefore, I want you to know that no one who is speaking by Spirit of God says, "Jesus be cursed," or no one can say, "Jesus is Lord," except by the Holy Spirit. There are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in every one, it is the same God at work. Now to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit has been given for a common good. To one, there is given through the Spirit of a message of wisdom. To another, a message of knowledge by the means of the same Spirit. To another, faith by the same Spirit, to the another gift of healing by that one Spirit, to another miraculous power, to another prophecy, to another distinguish between spirits, to another speaking in different kinds of tongues, and still another the interpretation of tongues. All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and He distributes them to each one just as He determines. Just as a body to one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we are all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jewish or Gentile, slave or free. We were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it should not for that reason stop being a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for the reason stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of the hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If there were all one part, where would the body be? As it is there are many parts but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seems to be weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable we treat with special honor, and the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty. While our presentable parts need some special treatment, but God has put the body together, giving great honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. And God has placed the church first of all apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of the healing, of helping, of guidance, and of different kind of tongues. Are all the apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all have gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? Now eagerly desire the greater gift, and yet I will show you the most excellent way. Today's task is completed. So hopefully I would like to see you in another live stream. Thank you.